The time is now 7 o'clock, and I'm going to reconvene the regular board meeting on Monday, January 8th, 2018. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Excuse me. Mr. Karubas?
Here.
Mr. Razak?
Here.
Mr. Rising?
Here.
Miss Donahue? Miss Peel?
Here.
Miss Price?
Here.
And Miss Deming?
Here.
And again, I'm just going to say Mr. Karubas has the flu, and that's why he's participating from afar. Thank you, Justin, for doing that. And also, Mrs. Donahue had about a year-long vacation scheduled to Antarctica, and she can't reach us from Antarctica. So I just want to be sure that people understand that.
It's planned a year, but she doesn't have a year-long vacation.
Well, she planned it for a year, yes. She's not going to be there a year. Ms. Price,
Yes.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now move to board salutes. I know we have two. I'm going to start with Mrs. Peel.
The board salutes Georgetown principal Janan Zurich, who was selected to participate in the January 2018 Life Touch Memory Mission, an intensive volunteer effort to build a new community center and cafeteria in Rio Grande, Dominican Republic. The mission will consist of 46 volunteers that include 29 educators from around the country. Congratulations, Janan.
Thank you. And Ms. Deming.
Illinois State Scholars announced. The Illinois Student Assistance Commission announced 685 District 204 high school students have been named Illinois State Scholars this year. Illinois State Scholars rank in the top 10% of the state's high school seniors. Students are identified by a combination of exemplary college entrance examination scores and strong academic achievement. Congratulations to all these students.
And thank you. We now move to our student representative report. Today it's by Ms. Kaitlyn Backe from Neuqua Valley High School. Welcome, Kaitlyn. Happy New Year.
New Year, Kaitlyn.
Hello and Happy New Year. My name is Kaitlyn Backe, and I will be catching you up on some of Neuqua events and honorable mentions. Neuqua is proud to have hosted a phenomenal, heart-wrenching Veterans Ceremony, followed by our Red Carpet Rally, where we award our state-winning teams and other amazing Neuqua students and clubs. Right before Thanksgiving break, our staff enjoyed Staffsgiving, where food and laughs were shared. The Neuqua Theater Department has hosted two great productions, including You Can't Take It With You and Steel Magnolias. As of November 27th, all students were given a case for their Chromebook. 4 Neuqua students were awarded the Naperville Youth Service Award, including Jack Grimmer, Lillian Fu, Celine Ashfari, and Bryn Winarski. Our Special Olympics team hosted the annual Pack the Place game, which created a lively, fun crowd and atmosphere for the Special Olympic athletes. The music department hosted the breathtaking annual Crystal concert that was sold out each night. Staff and students united to raise money and take a slip for Alliance with the Children as one of our annual holiday fundraisers. Student Council also hosted Adopt a Child, another annual holiday fundraiser. They raised $1,489.91, with the top 3 donors being Lauren Bertling, Isha Akella, and Kaitlyn Backe. The business department hosted Hour of Code to help students understand and experiment with technology and coding. The Environmental Club hosted a movie fundraiser showing Before the Flood to raise awareness of environmental issues, and the turnout was amazing. The club raised over $500. All staff members were invited to holiday tea on December 21st. This week is our annual Writers Week, where there will be 40 sessions of students, staff, and authors sharing their writing. Personally, this event means a lot to me, as this will be my second year participating, and I know it means a lot to many other students as well. It is one of the few events where students are allowed to freely share their opinions, and it is built off of the safe space that has been created by the host and backbone of this event, Mr. Rossi, as well as the large amount of support Dr. McBride provides. Within the next few weeks, we will have our course recommendations set for students. We will host our elective fair and our 8th grade open house. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your award, too.
Oh, thank you.
It's now time for public comment for non-agenda items. We do not have public comment for non-agenda items. All our public comment tonight will be for agenda items. So in a few short minutes, I'll read the public comment statement and then hear our public comment. And with that, we go to our superintendent report and consent agenda.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. So we welcomed our students and staff back from winter break today. Hard to believe that next week we will start the second semester of the school year. I want to remind everyone that this is the time of the year for the Illinois 5 Essentials School Survey. The survey is open until January 31st, and as a district, we value hearing from our parents about their child's school. We use that information from the survey to guide our school improvement efforts. And we only get our results back if we get over 20% or more of our parents who take the survey. So we're urging all of our parents to take the time to complete the survey and give us their feedback. There is a lot going on this weekend at our schools with various events like usual, but I do want to highlight the VEX Robotics Tournament this weekend at the Backe Family Center. On Saturday, the Wired Cats of Neuqua Valley will host their annual robotics tournament at the Backe Family Freshman Center. There's over 70 teams registered. It is the largest competition, robotics competition in the state. And all District 204 middle and high schools will have teams in the competition. So I encourage you to stop by. I think between 10 and 4 anytime. You can just pop in if you have time to check out the action. We again thank the Indian Prairie Educational Foundation for helping provide some of the funds to help us expand our robotics club opportunities for our students. And lastly, our third Engage 204 session will be held on Monday, January 29th at Still Middle School from 7 to 9 p.m. This meeting will focus on the community's expectation for the kind of education they want our students to receive. And again, we urge everyone to come out and participate in these very important meetings. We need to hear everyone's voices in this process. So please visit the Engage 204 website for more information. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, and Happy New Year to you. And with that, we go to the consent agenda. I need a motion that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through H.
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through H as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Jackie, call the roll, please.
Miss Deming,
Aye.
Miss Price,
Aye.
Mr. Razak,
Aye.
Mr. Karubas,
Yes.
Mr. Rising,
Aye.
Miss Peel.
Aye.
Okay, it is now time for public comment because we are going to our agenda item. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups. And as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening and keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from the board members during the meeting, but a follow-up will be provided by administrator as appropriate. With that, Stephen Dono is our first speaker.
Good evening. My name's Steve Dano. I live at 1001 Oswego Road in Naperville. I'm here representing Crestview Builders. Crestview Builders is a builder and developer that have been active in the Naperville community for 40 years. We've built over 1,200 homes, developed 15 subdivisions, one of those subdivisions being the Hidden Creek, which is why I'm here. When I originally was aware of the fact that the elementary school boundaries were being adjusted, I certainly understood that. I was a little surprised when I saw the final agenda show up that Hidden Creek's high school had been changed. from Nequa Valley to Wabansie. Hidden Creek is a 21-lot subdivision that's on the east side of 248 between 103rd and 111th Street. That entire block has always been Nequa Valley. When we purchased it, it was Nequa. When we started development just last year, it was Nequa. And to see it show up now as Wabansie was a surprise. We have a family that lives there now. They built a beautiful custom home with the intention that it be in Nequa Valley. We also have contracts pending, building permits, and deposits, and the majority, if not all of those people, purchased this land or these custom homes to attend Nequa. There is a demand for Nequa, and we think that Hidden Creek provides that. As far as, it's, for people that do live in the Nequa Valley High School and they're looking to upgrade to a custom home, this is an opportunity. So I'm here to request that, understanding completely and interestingly, the detail that went into the school boundary changes for the elementary school was pretty impressive. I'm a little confused as to why Hidden Creek is just now all of a sudden changing high schools. I understand, we were at Peterson in the elementary school. They've switched that now to Fry, which feeds to Scullin, which still feeds to Nequa Valley. So I'm basically just here to request that that Hidden Creek be left in the Nequa Valley School District. There is a demand for it. There are people that, specifically want to be in that area, and we feel that we provide that. Plus, we also, like I mentioned earlier, have a family that lives there now. We have permits pending. We have deposits and contracts. I don't know, I guess my opinion is that the influx of 21 homes in that area would not really affect the boundaries for the high school that dramatically. So that's my request, is that when you consider your vote, that you take into consideration that, Hidden Creek remain in that high school district. And that's really all I have to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Sally Glavin.
Wave to you,
I waved to Justin. No, somebody did though, but not me. Ready? Okay. Thank you for your workshop this evening regarding the proposed boundary changes. It is important to have information such as this shared in an open forum, since it is a topic that will affect many students and families. It is commendable that the board is listening to the 204 community, given how much this topic was brought up at the recent Engage 204 meetings. The fact that you were willing to postpone a vote and hold a workshop on this topic makes it all the more puzzling that other topics brought up equally, if not more, as community concerns during the Engage 204 meetings, as well as for many previous board meetings, have garnered not a bit of further discussion from the board or administration, despite the fact that they too will have a huge impact on members of our student body. What are these? The first topic demanding further discussion and resolution is the STEPS program. A workshop dedicated to STEPS is needed now. No one here can be proud of what has happened to that program. Just as planning is now needed to address school boundaries for next year, so too is planning required now to address the very real needs of the STEPS program. This must not wait any longer. Time is slipping away. Parents of this program have been pleading for meaningful resolution and discussion about this program. After all, this is the future of their young adults and the most vulnerable of our student population. Why is this not front and center as a district priority? For those of you who have attended the first two Engage 204 meetings, the community was loud and clear about their collective concern regarding the STEPS program, and you cannot claim to think that the community does not place it as a priority. This year's STEPS experiment has not been successful despite the classroom staff's best efforts. Some type of resolution as to what the program will look like next year and going forward is very much needed, and administration must be held accountable and be willing to think outside the box. What is the harm in listening to the families and at least entertaining the thought of a potentially free building for the program? I know we have space in the district, but if you're not willing to use it, just having it available is not a reason to continue the dissemination of the STEPS program and ignore these families. This leads me to another Engage 204 community concern. that of class sizes. Just as you claim that boundaries need to be adjusted due to overcrowding at some school buildings, I don't think it is a far leap to suggest that the same logic be applied to individual classrooms. No one wants to leave their school. For that, you should be very proud. People generally like their school community and don't want to leave it. However, how can you possibly expect a family in an overcrowded school to embrace the change when you are simply moving them from one classroom of 30 or 31 to another classroom of the same size, a 40-minute bus ride away? Who and what are you benefiting with such a move? You're not using available space for its defined purpose. You're not providing students with a better educational environment, and you're not providing staff with a better working environment. So how can you justify the upheaval to these communities? No one with a straight face can claim that the students are receiving the best education possible in class sizes such as 204 allows, even if an 8 or 2 are added. 32 in 5th grade, 36 in a middle school science class, or even more students in a high school class is not education. Let's get this topic on the agenda. The community cares, and you need to too. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alicia Merrick.
Hi, I'm Alicia Merrick. I am not nearly as prepared, but I completely agree with everything that they said before me. I am coming to the board meeting. I am new to the whole school district. I have a kindergartner in Brooks, and we are from the Cambridge countryside community. I walk my son to the bus stop and pick him up afterwards, and I've got several parents in my community who are upset by the boundary change and are upset that, as you said earlier, Cambridge countryside is being moved again. The parents are very stressed that, you know, this is going to be something that happens to us every couple years because we're kind of a nice little community that has a good amount of numbers. It's easy to move. Where my concern is, is on how, if you look at Jay's maps, on the north side of Scott Avenue, where my son is picked up by his grandparents as his daycare, those kids are going to continue to go to Young. And on the south side of the street, if I'm reading the map correctly, are going to go to Brooks. So my son and all of his friends from playing at his grandparents' house are now going to be in 2 separate schools. And I know, Mr. Rising, that you said it's a good thing because, you know, the kids will kind of bond together and as they travel into the middle school. My concern, though, is that they're little kids, and the kids are so excited about their school, and they're so excited to be there, and now to transition them. I remember being little and thinking when kids moved away, oh, there must be something wrong with them if they're moving to a new school, which I think is more what you're going to see. And I think to pick and choose these little Band-Aids, I know there was a lot more going into it than just picking and choosing, but I think you're just putting Band-Aids on it. And at the Engage meeting, the community that turned out, there was probably about 250 parents, kept saying we would be much happier if you just redraw the boundary lines. Because of, like you said, there are 6 schools in the north, and the north is continually growing, and the south is decreasing. Redraw the boundary lines versus putting Band-Aids on it. So that's just my request, is to look at it and not move our kids.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next speaker is Sylvia Vega Mitchell.
Hi, second time I'm here. You might not be the last either. I wanted to just address some of the things that I took from the workshop presentation. This is what I understood. Supporting this proposal, and with our history of rezoning, we as a community, as a board, as the administration are owning and accepting and going to continue to do the every 3 to 4 years, very short-sighted Band-Aids, and continue to take pride in perfecting the welcome new students and to new schools process. That's what we will continue to do, is to take the pride in perfecting welcoming them into new schools. So quite frankly, I'm not the kind of person to be combative. I'm direct. But I feel that, frankly, Engage 204 resonated the option of a full redistricting, and the admin will drive home on a regular that it is not a real option because, as Jay stated, supporting it is never being a solution because the community is always changing, i.e. the mall becoming residential. We're so far into seeing that and not seeing what we're doing right now. That's not the goal of perfection. This rezoning, rather than perfecting welcoming students to the new school with pride, we should be looking at what we're doing to our students and for our students with pride. And I don't feel we're getting that right now. We should do better, always. We should lead and support to a standard of grace and not perfection. It feels far from this at this point. I just want you to see what I see when these proposals are made, whether I am directly affected or not. I see a game of Tetris. I see the same colors on our map that we've displayed here. I see the fact that we don't have all the information as a community, but we ask our community to say what they feel. We ask them to give their opinion. But yet, we play Tetris. We will continue to play Tetris with our students if we continue to go this route. And we start to see more of all the colors that we take pride in our schools with. We're going to start seeing them stack up and get lost, and then the game's over. And so I really want you to see that as you make your decision today, because that's what our students are looking like. And they may be resilient, but then, like I said, we're supporting when we take this vote that we're going to continue to do this as opposed to looking for a bigger picture. Brookdale is not going away. We did propose quite a bit. We thought we were being productive. We thought we were being part of the decision. We didn't feel that way right now, and so I just want you to know that we're going to keep trying to provide you with what we have, but we feel it's going on deaf ears. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. And our last speaker is Ruth, and I think Sheehan.
Hi, I'm Ruth Sheehan. I am a resident. My children went to Brookdale. They're at Hill and Mattia now. And I'm also a realtor, so I come to this with sort of an additional perspective of how shifting patterns in housing have affected us and kind of brought us to where we are now. What I see is every day, we're still feeling the ripples of the crash. There are homeowners who are in homes that traditionally they would not have stayed in as long as they have. There are other homeowners who are in housing that is probably insufficient. And as the real estate market sorts itself out and we start seeing more families shifting around into places that are more appropriate for where they are at their stages, I think that a lot of this is going to shift and change. And so when people say that these solutions seem like Band-Aids, I see them as very temporary. I already have seen a lot of shifting toward South Naperville because of housing prices, because people are moving out when they hadn't for a while. And so we're sort of loosening up the log jam that was going on there. Those empty classrooms are going to fill up with people who live in South Naperville. So if we fill them with people who live in Brookdale and other neighborhoods, you're going to be back here in a couple of years doing this again. And I think most of us, we've had many discussions. A long-term solution seems needed. We know that there's always going to be shifts and it's always going to change a little bit, but it seems like over and over and over again for the past 10 years, it's been one temporary solution after another and scooping out sections of neighborhoods and all of those families who are entrenched, who are not just the children who, are probably more resilient than everyone else, but all of their families who are involved in the PTA, who are involved in their schools that are the centers of their neighborhood. It's very disruptive. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we do move to our agenda item, and that's the approval of the elementary attendance area adjustments. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, can I ask?
Yes, do I have a motion to approve the elementary attendance area adjustment?
I'll make a motion to approve the elementary attendance area adjustment as presented.
Second.
Discussion.
I just wanted to make a comment that this is being a new board, relatively new board member, probably the most difficult vote that I've had to take as of yet. And so I feel strongly for those families and parents that are facing the difficult decisions that we're making, and just want to share, having sat in their seats before as my children were being, as we were discussing my children having to move schools. And they did, and it was extremely, extremely difficult. Yes, they survived and enjoyed their experience, but very, very difficult. And so I do strongly feel for those families. At the same time, understanding that we can't continue seeing the large populations and trying to do makeshift things at each particular school, because we do want overall the best educational opportunity for all of our children in each of our elementary schools. So while it's just a very, very difficult decision, and I do feel for those families, but at the same time feel very strongly that that we need to put the entire school population in the best, make the best decision for the entire school population at each of those schools. So just a comment.
Other comments or questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with Susan's sentiments. This has been a very rough decision, and we did delay putting this before the board for a vote. We asked administration to do that. And it did give people a chance to ask questions further, sit in their seats, see the presentations that they were working on, and see a lot of the planning that did go into this. And I'm sure this was not an easy task or easy decision for you to present to us. I know you spent many hours on that. I don't want, there was comments made about Engage 204 not being, falling on deaf ears. The suggestion to redraw boundaries as the whole district, the board even asked that question, how long would it take? The reality is, though, we don't have the time to do that effectively for the fall, and that's where these kids are going to be impacted the most this coming year in the fall. And so, because I know, just as I'm sitting here, that if we don't do anything, there's going to be parents and families that are saying, again, the kids it's too crowded there. We have art on a cart. We have this, we have that. It's not a good situation either way, in my opinion. So I don't ever like to do boundaries for this very reason, because there's no side that truly gets what they want. And that's the meaning of compromise. And I know we have we've even thrown out our suggestions to administration. What if? So this is a very comprehensive plan. I'm somewhat disappointed to see, or that there weren't more people here at the workshop to understand this and to see what we saw. Because I think it was a good gathering of information, of all the information that we have asked and what administration has previously given. So I'm rather disappointed to see that no one came to that, or very few people came to that workshop. So that being said, I mean, we need to make some kind of action now. And we do hear you on redrawing boundaries for the district. It just, that is not, in my opinion, not able to happen for the fall. We've got to do something. Is it a Band-Aid? Yes, I will agree to that. But we have to do something. And then in the bigger picture, we can look at full boundaries and, you know, look at the demographic reports and the projections that RSP gave us. And that is a lengthy process. So that's all I have, really. I appreciate the time and effort you guys took. I appreciate the time and effort that One Brookdale took. I mean, I read those proposals. You know, there were questions asked. I know every board member read them, and there were questions asked of administration. What's the impact of this? What's the impact of that? So your comments did not fall on deaf ears. That's
Other
all.
questions, comments?
Just real quick on the Hidden Creek. I did notice that you had the asterisk by there. Was that because of projections that we see with the high school that they were moved?
The asterisk was because we changed the high school.
Right. Because of the numbers, essentially, or the
No,
projections?
what happened was that when we moved the ponds in Enclave to Kendall, which feeds to Crone, which feeds to Nequa, then that shifted to Hidden Creek.
Okay. Because I know what is it?
Anderman Acres.
Yeah, and then the English Rose, those both go to Nequa, don't they?
I
So
don't,
to the east.
we didn't change those.
Okay.
We didn't change those high schools because of that. So,
Okay.
you know, as we look at trying to prep things for future, we wanted to make sure that Nequa is our second most crowded high school. We wanted to make sure that we're sending folks to Waubonsee when possible.
So here's where I'm at, and I agree with Lori. Something has to be done this year. We can't wait. I am extremely thankful to the administration that while we have in policy that we want to keep neighborhood schools, sometimes that always isn't possible, especially with the way we've been growing. But administration and cabinet, all the cabinet members sat down and looked at this stuff, and they followed, you know, our guiding principles that we had, that least number of students were moved. Little or no change happened at middle school or high school. I say little because there were a few. And that we balanced the demographics. Like Lori said, I'm thankful to the One Brookdale and to the other areas that spoke up at Brooks and to the other areas that spoke up at Peterson. There were quite a few emails, and I know for sure that this board read every single one of those and spent numerous hours sending dozens of questions in that we got responses on. And I know majority of us spent time in the district office going over the maps and looking at every single possible way we could do this. Where I'm at, though, is that I haven't made it a secret that 4 years ago when we first did this, I wanted to start doing a district-wide boundary change. And you know, that's when we first went out for the demographic study, I think back in 2013. I think we're overdue. My concerns, and it's been raised, that we are continuing to have to do this every 2 years. My concern is, especially with this movement and the one 2 years ago, we're actually spending more in transportation because we have to send kids where we have room. And we've created more islands. And really, those kids are still going back to the same middle school and high school, so we're ultimately not really alleviating that long-term issue that we may be facing down the road. I want to, though, clarify that my vote tonight should in no way be taken as against the work that the administration did or the way my fellow board members vote, because I know all of them spent incredible amounts of time on this. My vote tonight will be my desire, as I've spoke the last 4 years, to want to do a district-wide boundary change. And to keep consistent with that, that's how my vote will be reflected tonight. But I want it to be clear that I will support whatever decision is made tonight, because I know a lot of hard work was done.
Lori?
I just had a quick kind of piggyback to something he said earlier in regards to the high schools changing and the developers. You know, at one point we had, I know, Jay, when you talked to developers, you had asked them to use just District 204 schools, because I know some of them in the past were using Neuqua Valley High School. Or is that still our practice to?
Developers contact me regularly as we walk through the generation tables, and they ask for support from the school district. And I always encourage them to publicize 204 schools and not a particular elementary, middle, or high school.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
No.
Okay.
Great question.
Kathy?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Susan, I think you bring up a great point. We are all community members as board members. We've all been in this spot with our own kids. Going through high school changes was a pretty major one. And it is hard. And I really applaud the administration. You used your guiding principles, you stuck with them, and you are trying to minimize it minimize the number of students that are going to be affected. And I don't know if there's anything else we can do other than a huge district revamping and probably finding another location for students in the north area, so we don't have to kind of move this around. But that is a huge financial impact. I'm not sure the community will support that, which is the whole reason why we are in Engage 204. We want to know what our community wants. These are temporary. Somebody said they were temporary. I think we know they could very well be temporary. The last few have been temporary. The purpose of the Engage 204 is maybe we won't have to have a temporary one again. Maybe the next time it is something that will be more permanent. At least some sense of a boundary for our schools would be nice, you know, to at least know this area of this elementary school is pretty secure, and to have some of that in the future, I think is a goal we might want to start thinking about. But at this point, at this time, the administration has put together a plan that has been well thought out, looked at by many eyes, and tried to move things around. You know, I know we have friends in the audience. I know you want your friends to support your wishes, but we got to make a decision based on what's good for the entire community. And right now, the students in those schools do need some relief. All those students do. And we do know we always take care of our students no matter where they are. And that doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it better. But it does get better as we move forward. And I hope we can get better. That is the purpose of the Engage 204. It wasn't to solve this problem this year. We knew it wouldn't be able to happen, but we knew we had to do something. So I think it's been kind of confusing in that regard. So that's all I really had to say.
Mr. Karubas, any comments or questions?
Yes, if I may. I think a vote to not support the recommendation is a vote to support overcapacity. The only choice before the board tonight is overcapacity or an attendance area adjustment for next year. While there's been some mention of a more comprehensive boundary adjustment, that issue is not on the agenda for this meeting. It's not up for vote tonight. So I'm going to be supporting the administration's recommendation. I think we've heard from administration. We've asked constructive questions. Administration has dedicated valuable time. I think administration has followed board policy. I came up through the system when we had 4 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. That's a large neighborhood. And we still had successful teachers, parents, and students through that system. I believe a vote in support of this attendance area adjustment is in the best interest of our entire community.
Thank you. Hearing no other, I have one other, I would like to make a statement also, and mine is the following. It revolves around, I guess, 4 themes. One is I appreciate both the administration and our parents who both address the issue of the complexity of the issue. It's a tough issue, and both sides recognize the complexity of that issue. I need to say, we read everything, and I tried to respond to everything. And I know each one of us took a turn to meet with the administration in several different ways to try to address those questions. So from my perception, we did our best to listen to our community and to listen to the administration, and now it's going to be time for us to make a vote. As I consider my vote, I need to say to the administration that we are still creating islands, and I think Mr. Karubas talked about Band-Aids, and that still exists. And as Mr. Rising has stated, I feel that a long-term solution is needed. However, from my perception and from my action in Engage 204, we are in the middle of Engage 204. As some of our speakers have said, we have class size issues, we have boundary issues,
State finance issues.
we have state finance issues which state that we still don't know what we're going to get paid. Our new projected date is March, so we might know what we're going to get paid in March. Remember, we began school in August. We have buildings that are in need. We have staff that needs to be paid. And so we are in the middle step of Engage 203. 204, sorry. I lost
Their
it.
problems are easier than.
Yeah, they are easier. Excuse me, Engage 204. So there's 3 more presentations to occur. Priorities may change. They may differ. I did hear what the 250 community members did say in the Engage 204 boundary meeting. That was clear. My question is one of the complexity of this issue for over 200 students. When push comes to shove and people really care what's going to happen in a large-scale boundary, what the feedback is going to be from the entire community. And this is one board member who appreciates and heard the 250 people that Engage 204. But I might have to do a little bit more homework before I go to full scale. And I do think we need to go to a full-scale boundary change. Let's be clear about that. I think it's time. I think the community has to accept that. And I think that's a community effort on the part of the entire community. So when do I hope to start moving? I have to hear from Engage 204, which is in June. That committee comes back to me and tells me what priorities are and what steps need to be taken. If I take those steps before that, I dismiss the whole Engage 204 process. And I'm the one, and this board are the ones who pushed Engage 204 to hear the community, and we need to hear them, but it's throughout the school year. The timing of this, I guess, is unfortunate. And in my past life, I was a principal. And I was a principal of schools that weren't so full, and I was a principal of schools that were overcrowded. And from my perspective, there's an educational equity issue in overcrowded schools. Now, I know there's educational equity with class sizes and everything else. I appreciate all that. But where I can make a difference, I think it's important that I do. An overcrowded school does not provide the same educational opportunity for students as one that is not as crowded. And that's my perspective, and that will guide my vote. Any other questions or comments? With that, Jackie, can you call the roll?
Ms. Peel?
Aye.
Mr. Karubas?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Rasak?
Aye.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Mr. Rising?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. With that, I think we have one more item, and that's a discussion item with professional learning.
Good evening. I'd like to start tonight by thanking you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight about professional learning. I have with me two of the directors. All of our directors are focused on this, but we have two of them tonight that are going to help us talk about it. One is Candy Michelli and Alan Davenport. This is the focus and the work of our whole department and our whole team, our instructional specialists, our assessment specialists, and all of our directors, executive directors, are focused on supporting teachers as they do their work so that they can support the students that are in front of them. Professional learning is referenced in Board Policy 5100, which looks at professional learning mandates, some of those types of things, but it also references the agreement with the association as we are partners in helping to support teachers. So tonight we're going to talk to you about the why. Why do we do professional learning? And then a little bit about the how. So we want to update you about the alignment of our professional learning opportunities and the plan. We want to talk to you about the standards put forward by Learning Forward. And then the fun part is to highlight the examples of professional learning opportunities that are available within our school district. You may remember at a previous presentation, we shared this graphic with you, and this represents our 4 plans for reaching our goal in our mission statement to inspire all students to achieve their greatest potential. These 4 plans represent the work that we have.
Sorry, the call dropped.
Did he miss the board policy part?
You got to repeat it anyway.
Yeah.
Justin, are you there? Justin? Hello? It says he's there.
By now, the live feed is caught up if he's watching.
I know.
Should all wave to him.
Pick up the phone. It's weird though. It's so much harder when it's so much harder to hear on the phone, and it's so much nicer to listen on the computer because it's so much louder. But it's behind.
Please.
Yeah.
It's his bedtime.
No, it's only 8.
Oh, now he says he's here.
Can somebody text me?
I think she's texted him.
Just texted me.
Okay.
Are you there? No.
Is there a couple different lines on there? Is there 2 different lines?
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right.
We didn't have this problem with me, I'm just saying.
Let's see.
Use your cell phone? Yeah.
Justin here.
You're on my cell phone, Justin. We're gonna try that. Okay?
Okay.
We'll see how it works. Carry on.
You want me to just continue?
She mentioned the board policy, Justin, just so you know.
A+.
There's tape. These are the 4 plans that guide our work throughout the school year, and professional learning is embedded throughout all of it. In order to accomplish this mission, we have to support our teachers as they do their work. Tonight's presentation is purely informational. There's no vote or anything, and if you have questions, please just feel free to interrupt as we go.
So before we jump into the standards for professional learning, we just wanted to highlight a couple of the prerequisites that we have for educators when they're coming to work with each other and their providers at the time. That we know they're coming to the table committed to the success for all our students, that they're prepared to learn, that they know why they're there and what the purpose of their learning is for that activity, and that they have opportunities for collaboration with each other and an opportunity for application. We also acknowledge that our teachers are learning in different ways and at different times. When you look at those prerequisites, they're really no different than what the expectations and that we want for our students as well. And then to highlight the purpose for professional learning standards, again, we have standards for our teacher or for our students with our curriculum work. We also want to have those standards for our teachers. It helps us, it's not a toolkit, it's not a roadmap, but it allows us to align our practices and our work and evaluate what we do to make sure that we are always have high standards for the work that we do. As far as the standards for professional learning, I'm not going to get into each area for each one, but I did want to highlight a couple of the STEM, which is that beige corner. It says professional learning that increases educator effectiveness and results for all. That's the beginning of each standard. So each of them we have that we're highlighting that there's the effectiveness and that there's results. With the breakdown of the standards through Learning Forward, we could probably do a whole presentation on this alone, but there are some common themes through each area, that they have a consistent theme of building capacity of our educators, that the decisions we make are data-based, and that it's embedded professional development, which we'll talk about further in our discussion. In 2011, when they updated the professional learning standards, they also included a piece of excellence and equity, which we know is also important for our district. As far as always looking at the results that we want for our student learning, if we were to develop our professional learning for our teachers, we want to say where is it that we want them to go. We do the same thing for our teachers, and we go and then we develop we kind of backwards map this is where we want our teachers to go, and then what is it they need to do to change in their practice, and it interchanges between each of you can see how the arrows go between each of those areas. Once you change one, if you're changing changes in student results, we want to look at what it is that our teachers need to do to change in their practice, and so on. As far as what we provide in our district as far as professional learning, each district or professional learning provider may call each of these methods differently. This really aligns with what we're providing for our students. We have some traditional classroom learning that goes on, as well as online, blended, and embedded learning. And we're offering the same for our teachers. The first column, looking at traditional, is really what most people think of when they think of professional learning, where it is often face-to-face. We have, it could be provided either in a school building, or maybe it's at district office, where we have our teachers come together in a group. We have typically 1 or 2 presenters, and they're working together for learning. Some examples of that would be our new teacher induction program. We have our new teachers are required to have 14 hours of learning outside of their contract hours. 6 of those classes are face-to-face, and there are things that go along with equity, ELL for differentiated learning, and instructional technology. The additional 8 hours are reflected that they're required to do could be continued traditional learning or online, blended, or embedded. So they have some choice in what they need to do. Other examples of traditional professional learning is Yvette Dubier's work in implicit bias. She is spending time within the buildings. That is something that would be really hard to do in a blended learning format. We want teachers to have conversations and to work with their administrators to have ongoing learning and discussion. So that is something that we value as something that would need to be face-to-face at this time. And then another example of that would be when we're working with our curricular teams during the day, we may have them come up and learn about some of the more some of the newer curricular instructional methods that we have. So that's something that would be more face-to-face. I'm going to turn it over to Al to talk about the online learning.
Yeah, and if we look at online learning, you'll see in the grade that we have it titled as self-paced, and that's one of the exciting things about online learning, as we talk about with our students, about having students have some control over that pace and place of when they do that learning. The same thing with our teachers, and online learning provides that. A few examples of those we've done the last few years with many of our staff, the Google Certified Educator Program. There's a level 1 and level 2 of the Google Educator Certification, and that's an online program that a lot of our teachers have participated in. Many of our pilot teachers, when they were pilot teachers for the 1-to-1, went through that certification. Google also has a great digital citizenship online program, and that's free for teachers to participate in, and really talks about the digital citizenship skills that we want our kids to have, and really helps the teachers walk through that. And then we have a variety of other examples and ways in which teachers can use online programs. One of the great things now with technology and with just kind of information in general is that it's out there. So there are also places like Khan Academy that offer great teacher types of programs. If teachers are interested in a certain area of growth, to just kind of research and do on their own. So those are some ways in which we've utilized online learning.
So, Al, how many classes do you have online for staff to take?
It's the Google Certified Educators level 1 and 2 are ongoing, so there's not a set start and end time. Teachers can kind of start at their own pace and finish when they're ready. So it's hard to say how many we have start to finish because it's kind of ongoing, and I don't have the exact numbers of how many have participated, but that's one of the benefits of it. Is we know that sometimes people get really busy, so they might start the program, then things come up and they have to back off a little bit, and then they can start it up again. So that's why we like those for that purpose, is it allows that flexibility.
How about courses?
We have courses. We purchased True North Logic, and within that program, it helps us not only warehouse and keep track of all of the courses that we have, helps teachers to sign up and keep track of the hours that they have, but they also provide some online learning as well. And then we've offered some micro-credentialing courses that are also online. So the number...
Currently, right now, we have 3 online courses that we're offering at the moment related to math instruction as well.
So we vary throughout the year, so it just depends on the need, and then we look to provide it.
But I just want to brag for a second, because thank you so much for that attachment that you sent me with all the course offerings. That's the first time I've seen it. And there was 112 course offerings that our teachers can take. That's incredible. That's amazing. And I can only imagine we continue to add to it. Departments are doing different things with professional development, or schools are, and everything else. So when I saw that, I was like, this is awesome. Like, because I totally misunderstood. I'm like, oh, they only have to take 3 classes? Oh, big deal. You know, but then I'm like, you sent me this, and I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, this is really great. I mean, this is, and I don't think a lot of people in our community really realize, and maybe we need to, I don't know, talk about it more, how our teachers are continuously learning themselves, and not only to better themselves as a teacher, but to help their students as well. And you know, I think that's one of the strengths of our district, and I think it has been for many, many years. And you know, when I saw this, I'm like, man, I wish we could shout this at the mountaintops, because it's great.
Well, and honestly, this is, these are the courses and the things that we facilitate. So our teachers are reading professional journals, they're taking courses outside of what we offer, and those types of things. And some of the courses that you saw in that list were because someone took a class outside of our district and said, this was really great, we should offer it to more people.
Well, and by following Future Ready 204, you can see a lot of the things that our teachers are doing as well, above and beyond even this stuff. So
it's amazing.
Always, yeah.
That's why I cringe whenever I hear people say teachers, you know, get summers off. I just cringe when I hear that, because we know that's not necessarily true. So,
they work very hard.
yes, they do.
So the third column is the blended learning, and really that is a combination of the traditional and online. We have a couple courses that we're offering right now. You can see that implicit bias is actually in both sections, because the first one is what we are requiring every building to have at this point in time. The blended learning piece is for anyone that wants to go deeper into that learning. They have an opportunity, and they're working together in a cohort, so they can go further and have an opportunity for application within their own classroom if they would wish. Another example, and what you were just saying, Kathy, as far as teachers are volunteering. So we have a teacher in the building along with one of our instructional specialists that are co-developing the Becoming the Math Teacher You Wish You Had together. They've taken the course, they thought it was great, and they're using the materials, and they have decided to make it more of a blended learning opportunity, so they have a professional learning community to support one another, which has been excellent. As far as the embedded learning is really what we want to talk about tonight, is because that's the direction that we've been going. Just like we want personalization for learning for our students, we want to have the same opportunity to do that for our educators, and we know that that's really the biggest bang for our buck, is to be working alongside them in the classroom and to develop those relationships. Our current example up there is really talking about instructional delivery and how we're supporting teachers in the buildings, moving away from just spending time with content. Although that's important, we know that the actual practice of what's going on in the classroom is as important as well. I'm going to turn, actually before I turn over to Al, I was going to highlight a few pictures in the next slide. In the top left corner is an example from Institute Day. Many of you were there. We had our speaker, Tom Murray, who was very engaging. We had a lot of positive feedback. One of the highlights that we found from the surveys that we took from staff is that although people really thought that Tom Murray was an excellent speaker, the overwhelming feedback was about the presenters that we had available for that day were our teachers. Our teachers volunteered. We had 96 teacher leaders volunteer that day to provide sessions for their own colleagues. It was amazing. People felt like, one, they had a choice and a voice in the process, and it was exciting to see that they had someone that was sitting in their own shoes doing something in a classroom that excited them, and they knew they can go to someone and ask for help, and how that would look like in their classroom. So that was a very well-received Institute Day for our staff. I'm sorry.
I just like to, this is the first time I've heard of that, but I'd like to commend you on that, because what a wonderful opportunity, growth opportunity for your teachers, and what for our teachers, and then a wonderful opportunity for those that are having a chance to learn and have that type of mentorship and hands-on experience from those that have stepped where they're getting ready to step. So that's a fantastic opportunity, because I don't really know of many opportunities where they'd have that type of growth and development. So that's fantastic.
Well, we have a wealth of knowledge and expertise right within our district, and so we decided to use that to our benefit on that Institute Day, and it took some coaxing. I know arms were twisted, and some, come on, you can do this, it'll be great. And we were able to talk to a lot of the teachers that presented, and they were like, yeah, I'll do that again. So actually, we're going to extend that to the Elementary Institute Day in March and do some more of that. But you're right, it was, we have this expertise right within our own district, and it's so valuable for them to see each other and to learn from somebody who's walking in their same shoes, and to be able to communicate and collaborate with that. So we are very proud of our teachers. They did a wonderful job.
I like that impact on our financial resources too.
Well, if you look at how we've really tried to focus on job-embedded staff development, after our teachers have the confidence to go and do a workshop like that, they're also much more willing during the school day to invite teachers into their classrooms. So we've seen a big growth in teachers just throughout the day going in and observing and working with other teachers on their planning periods and things like that nature. So it's, the catalyst was our Institute Day, but we've really seen the effects of that throughout the year. So we're really excited about how that's continued to evolve.
I also want to highlight the center picture is a picture of our instructional specialists, who are teachers in our district that are individuals that we work with to help us not with just our curriculum, but the instructional strategies within the classroom. We this year have had the opportunity to work with Jim Knight. He's in the center with the black jacket. He is known for instructional coaching. He's an author of the book Better Conversations, which is where we've started. We just did a book study with our instructional specialists, and highly recommend this book for personal and professional life in general. It's really just talking about building relationships, being a good listener, not having judgment on others, so that when you're working alongside someone, it's a true partnership, which is really what we want our teachers to see with not just us, but also our instructional specialists, that we're there to work with them, to help them in any capacity that they need. So this has been a really great opportunity for us, and we're looking forward to working through that instructional coaching process. Some of the other pictures up there are an example of a whole school together going through the cultural competency, implicit bias work. And then we have some examples with our new teachers, with some of our instructional specialists. And I'm going to turn it over to Al to talk about some of the work that our directors and our instructional specialists do when we're embedding some of that professional learning.
So it's been really exciting. We've really, the whole CNI department has really, come together to really reach out and go into schools. So the way that it kind of works is we put together this flow chart is typically what will happen is teachers or a principal will reach out to us to say, hey, we'd like to learn more about X. And then we really kind of get together as a team to say, well, who would be good to go to that building to help them with that? And then once we do that, we co-plan with teachers, we co-teach with teachers, and then we kind of follow up. So I wanted to give you a few examples of what that looks like, kind of at each of the levels. So we'll start with elementary. So we had one school, for example, this year that reached out to the team to really look at how could they bring more makerspace into the classroom directly connected to curriculum. Now we knew we could tell them how to do that, but we thought, let's go show them and work with them on that. And that's really kind of been our philosophy now. So we kind of determined which of our team should go to that. We worked together to see what that opportunity would look like. And then we met with the principal and some of the instructional leaders of the building to say what could that staff development look like for the teachers. And then the teachers actually participated in what bringing makerspace in the classroom would look like. And then we co-taught classes with them so that they could see it modeled, then do it. And then we were there with them to kind of help coach them along the way. And then there's opportunities for reflection and follow-up after we leave. And the whole hope with that, too, is, and we talk about this with the teachers that we work with, is once we've worked with you, our hope is that then you spread the word throughout your building and work with others. And that's where we've seen that, teachers inviting other teachers in or sharing what it is that they're doing when they see, the district in working with teachers.
Well, there's buy-in, and there's them being part of the development of it, instead of the district just dropping a makerspace and say, okay, have at it, yeah.
Well, the other piece to that is that, maker spaces and some of these instructional strategies are still new. So we don't have all the answers either. So for them to give us the opportunity and share their students with us so that we can learn from them and see what works and what doesn't is really valuable for us too. So it's a great partnership.
A middle school example is we had a school that reached out to us as they were looking to do more inquiry design in their classes. And so we worked with the principal and with several other instructional leaders within the building and designed a staff development for the whole staff for a half day on inquiry-based instruction and what that looked like. And it really kind of followed the same flow chart. Who from our team should go. We planned together on what that could look like. And then throughout that, the whole idea was we delivered the PD in an inquiry design model so that they could experience what that looked like and then also be able to be coached through it to then go replicate it. And that's been, and again, we continue to follow up and get reflection. And one of the things that we always try to do when we work with these teachers is, what's one thing you can take today and do tomorrow? And we've really seen a lot of positive feedback of just kind of the little things throughout, just by experiencing it, they've been able to take and replicate it. So, and with the high school, a very similar process. We've spent a lot of time working with the department chairs at the high school. And again, really focusing on instructional strategies and how they can take those and how we can work with them. And when we do this with the department chairs, it's very much like we do at the elementary and the middle. They participate in the PD versus just receiving the PD, if that makes sense, and then are better able to coach their own teachers and bring it to the building. So those are just some examples of how that flow chart works, but it's great to see how when someone reaches out to our team, we really have figured out and come together as to who needs to go where to support how, and just the team reflection and how we support one another has been really powerful, and we've seen a lot of positive growth within our buildings as a result of that.
I have a question about, so when you go, like for the high schools, an example, you're giving it to the department chairs, how are they given that opportunity then to pass it along? Because that's a time thing. So how do they do that? And are we good about that?
Well, they do it in a number of ways. They have, their own team meetings, they have institute days, they have school improvement days, things like that. And what they do is then they take it and they think about what that instructional strategy would look like in an English classroom, in a social studies classroom, and then they adapt it, and they can either model it within their own classroom because they teach as well, or they can share it with one of their colleagues. They can do a whole presentation. The nice thing about it is it's typically one thing, one simple, one thing that you can try. And so just by trying it in their classroom and talking about it, it doesn't require a lengthy 4-hour presentation. Okay. Most of these things are just small tweaks, small instructional strategies, engagement activities, things like that you can use the very next day in your classroom. Mm-hmm. And so that's a lot of what's happened is they've taken just one little thing that they've seen and then tried it in their classroom, and then we use that, and then they tell 2 friends, and then they tell 2 friends, and then so on, and then it has spread throughout. And then the nice thing is that they tweak it and they say, I tried it this way, but I really liked it this way. And then the next time they see somebody from the team, they say, I tried it this way, or come see what I did. I tried it this way, and come and take a look at it, and then we can share that as well.
Okay.
So Kathy, when you say one thing that might be able to be implemented like the next day,
Mm-hmm.
can you just give a small specific example for me?
Mm-hmm. Well, I talked with a teacher that had a group of our, a couple of people from our team come and just talk to them about a wonder wall. Simple thing is to put up a wall, and kids can put up things that they're thinking about. When you're talking about science, what are you thinking about? And the kids can just put up on the wonder wall. And that's a nice way for the teacher to kind of get what are kids thinking about? What do they know about this topic? What do they want to learn more about? And a simple, quick strategy that doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of preparation,
Okay.
and it just happens. I don't know if you want to talk
Yeah,
about.
one of the, from the example I gave when we were looking and working with the teachers on Makerspace, the next day a teacher tweeted out, PD yesterday, in the classroom today. And what she was an ELL teacher, and they were working on letter recognition. And we had showed her, and she had not been able to participate with these, what we call the B-bots. I could have brought one if I didn't know I was talking about them. But the B-bots are a very basic, it's a B, and it's got directional arrows on the top of it, used in a lot of our pre-K and kindergarten classes, to teach kind of the basic components of coding, but also skills like letter recognition, numbers, and different things. And the teacher used that the next day with her ELL students on letter recognition and was amazed what she said about their engagement, their excitement. So that's just one simple strategy of showing and having a teacher participate in that, because I actually had the teacher code the B-bots and figure out how to use them, and then say, now how could you use that with your students? So that's an example of how just getting the PD on one day and then being able to implement the next.
And then the beauty is that she tried it and she shared it. So now we have another place where we know we can use it again. So we had one idea about how to use the B-bot, then they took it and made it to a different area, and now we can share that with other teachers as well.
Don't hesitate to bring something like that as a show and tell for
Sure.
those of us.
Do things like that, do we try to stay with making it instructional, or is it both making it instructional and engaging? Because that's the goal, right? I mean, to
Right.
try to make it engaging while being instructional, but
The engagement makes the instruction a lot easier.
yeah.
So we try to, teachers use strategies to engage students in their learning every day throughout the day. And so, part of when we look at instructional strategies, that includes engagement to
Sure.
keep kids focused. And also, when you look at personalized learning, a lot of it is looking at student interest and strengths. And so that's another tool for engagement. So some of these areas, a student who is very interested in coding may use that B-bot to do a lot of things that they may not have knew that they wanted to learn before, and they're so engaged in that coding that they, on the side, pick up some of those letter recognition tools as well.
Cool.
I think the other thing that's nice to mention here, and we've talked about this before in curriculum writing, but we've had great support from our high school department chairs, as well as some of our middle school. We've been gradually working through the science process of implementing the NGSS, and our department chairs at the high school, as well as some of our middle school teachers who have been through that, have done great work with our elementary teachers and done some presentations not only at an institute day, but for the group that's piloting NGSS, and then have said, I'll come to your classroom, I'll share with you. And that's very powerful as well. So not only across one level, but across all levels, we've seen that as a really powerful tool to have our teachers teaching other teachers.
And just the last thing to highlight for you tonight is I believe, have heard that we have IPSD Academy hours that we provide to our teachers. Our teachers are required to have so many hours to upkeep their licensure, and we provide through Institute Day and School Improvement Days. Those hours are met by and large for our teachers over the course of the years that they collect these hours. However, we have started to offer more classes that are related to IPSD Academy, and 32 of those hours equal 1 graduate credit hour. What this is different from those courses where we would say is either it's a required course or it's something that they come to and there's not necessarily the application piece. The IPSD Academy, really, we're looking at rigor. We're looking at almost the equivalent of a graduate class that our teachers not only have an opportunity, whether it's online, blended, traditional, embedded, whatever that piece is that they have opportunity for feedback and reflection and support along the way of their learning, and that there's the application piece. So when we're looking, and we align our IPSD Academy towards what our district's valuing and looking at things. So the implicit bias course that is being offered is also doing 32 IPSD Academy courses, because that's something that we are saying is of value for our teachers, and we want to incentivize them for their learning. And then there's some additional other courses looking ahead that are examples as well. In the future, we're looking at that computer science and Kagan and cooperative learning strategies as well.
Are other districts offering something like this where they're going to be able to get graduate?
They call it different
Wow,
things.
how cool this is.
Yeah, they call it different things based on the district, but, and the alignment is different and things like that, but I think most districts have gone to a model similar.
It's really cool.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much. It was
Thank
really
you.
informative.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I need to point out that, and this is for Jackie, at 8:01, the flu got the best of Mr. Karubas. And he left the meeting, so he hasn't been with us since 8:01.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
We move to the last agenda item, which is board update, and it's very brief. Just want to thank the board for all their work during winter break. Received many comments, both stylistic and grammatical in terms of my norms, and the board norms, and I just sent that out again this afternoon. They're fundamentally the same norms that have been approved from before, but they're grammatically and stylistically different. So I ask that you look at them and provide one last bit of feedback before we can go forward with that.
Okay.
And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Justin would have missed that.